Welcome back to Anime What If Saga, where every shadow hides a story untold. Today, we step into the beginning of something legendary. Before Sung Jinwoo became the Shadow Monarch, he was just a boy trying to survive. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more cinematic solo leveling stories. Now, let's begin. The morning sun filtered through the worn curtains of a small Seoul apartment, scattering golden streaks across the cluttered room. A kettle hissed on the stove. The faint smell of rice porridge hung in the air, warm yet thin, the kind of breakfast you could make when everyone mattered. Sung Jinwoo stirred awake on a narrow futon beside the window. His worn-out alarm clock blinked 6:15 a.m., its cracked glass held together by tape. For a moment, he stayed still, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faraway hum of traffic. The city outside felt alive, but for him, mornings were always heavy, the kind that carried more exhaustion than sleep ever cured. He exhaled quietly and sat up, rubbing the back of his neck. His younger sister, Jinna, was still asleep in the next room, her breathing soft and even. Their mother's bedroom remained dark, curtains closed, air still, the faint beep of a medical monitor echoing softly. Every morning for years, that sound greeted him before the sunrise did. Jinwoo stood, quietly padding across the cold wooden floor. He stopped outside his mother's room and peeked in. Park Kyung-hae, once full of laughter and color, now lay motionless beneath white sheets, her expression serene yet unreachable. Her hospital bed barely fit in their small apartment, surrounded by medical equipment Jinwoo could barely afford to maintain. He whispered softly, "Good morning, Mom," before gently adjusting the blanket that had slipped from her shoulder. The machine beeped steadily, a fragile rhythm reminding him she was still there, but trapped somewhere beyond reach. Jinwoo worked part-time everywhere he could. Convenience stores, delivery shifts, odd repair jobs, even temporary dungeon dispatching for C-rank guilds. He wasn't talented, nor strong. Officially an E-rank hunter, the lowest grade legally recognized. In truth, most hunters didn't even consider E-ranks real fighters. But Jinwoo didn't awaken for glory or adventure. He awakened because life left him no choice. In the dim light of morning, he laced up his worn sneakers and checked his cracked smartphone. A message from his guild leader flashed onscreen. "Raid starts at 8. Be there early, Hunter Sung. And please, don't bleed this time." Jinwoo grimaced and sighed. Even his allies made jokes now. But he could take it. He'd taken worse, both in battle and in life. He scribbled a note for Jinna. "There's soup in the fridge. Don't wait up for me if I'm late. Love you." The fridge hummed softly in reply. It was nearly empty apart from soup containers and some leftover kimchi. He added a mental reminder, if this raid went well, maybe he could buy something nice for dinner. Maybe actual meat, just once this week. Before leaving, he looked back at their small apartment, 3 rooms that carried all their memories. His mother's laughter once echoed here, before illness took her. His father's presence had faded long before that, vanishing into a dungeon expedition years ago and never returning. Sung Il-wan. A name spoken in whispers in the hunter world. A man who vanished so deeply the government declared him dead. Jinwoo didn't like thinking about it, not out of resentment, but because remembering hurt. He still imagined his father standing at the door, smiling, shoulders broad in that old leather jacket, saying, "I'm home." But that day never came. So Jinwoo stopped waiting. He just kept moving forward. Outside, Seoul buzzed with weekday rhythm, horns, chatter, shop signs blinking alive. Jinwoo weaved through the crowd toward the Hunter Association HQ. Tall glass towers loomed above old streets, clashing eras of wealth and survival. Hunters walked past in sleek armor, radiant weapons on their backs. Their badges glimmered, marking power and rank, A, B, S. Jinwoo kept his own badge tucked inside his pocket. On it, name, Sung Jinwoo. Rank, E. Affiliation, Association Temporary Workers Unit. He used to be proud of it. Now it was just another weight. At the association lobby, hunters gathered in small groups, joking and trading gossip. Jinwoo approached quietly, clutching his worn satchel. Hey, look who's here, someone called. Sung Jinwoo, the world's weakest hunter. Laughter rippled through the group. Jinwoo managed a polite smile. Morning. Baek Yunho himself, an A- rank, with muscles like steel, once said Jinwoo had more scars than anyone in his division. True enough. Between minor dungeon runs and injuries, the association's free clinic knew him by name. Maybe this raid you'll actually earn more than your medical bills, one of the D-rank hunters teased, clapping him on the shoulder. Maybe, Jinwoo said with a wry grin. He had learned that humility could bend where pride broke. The raid briefing began in the association's lower hall. Holographic maps glowed in shades of blue, showing a newly opened C-ranked gate in Songpa district, standard, manageable, and supposedly safe. Jinwoo had heard the same about a dozen dungeons that nearly killed him. Still, he stayed quiet through the meeting. His focus wasn't on fame, it was on surviving, earning enough to pay another month's hospital bill. When the group boarded the van to the dungeon site, Jinwoo sat by the window, watching the city landscape blur, glass towers fading into forested corners of Seoul. Raids always started the same way for him, a heavy silence in his chest. Fear that clung like smoke. Inside his bag, he carried a photo of his family, taken before all this. His father's steady hand on his shoulder, his mother's warm smile, Jin's messy pigtails. Every bruise he endured in those dungeons was for that picture, to preserve what was left of it. At the gate site, the air shimmered with azure light. Swirling mana mist spilled like liquid air, bending reality around it. Civilians stood behind barriers, snapping photos or whispering rumors. Even now, years into the gate age, the mystery hadn't faded. Portals to other worlds, monsters crossing over, hunters fighting them back. As the raid group prepared, Jinwoo adjusted his cheap dagger. The blade was chipped, but it was his only one. His armor, a mix of second-hand plates and patched fabric, squeaked slightly when he moved. Inside, the dungeon smelled of stone and moss, torches flickering along dark corridors. Drops of water echoed off walls like steady heartbeats. The team moved in formation, each hunter taking position. D ranks at the front, E ranks supporting from the rear, including Jinwoo. A hollow growl rumbled from deeper inside. A goblin scout emerged. Snarling, Jinwoo flinched but stepped forward to assist. He wasn't fast like others, but he had heart. Always did. Within minutes, the creature was slain. Shards of mana crystal scattered on the ground, dimly glowing. Jinwoo wiped sweat from his brow, his pulse still racing. For most hunters, it was routine. For him, every fight felt like a dance on a knife's edge. As he caught his breath, one of the younger D ranks whispered beside him, "Why do you keep doing this, man? You can't make much, you almost die every time." Jinwoo smiled faintly. Because someone's waiting for me at home. And I want her to keep waiting. The boy went silent, eyes softening. It was always the same answer, and Jinwoo meant it every time. By dusk, the raid was complete. The dungeon cleared, rewards distributed. Jinwoo's share was barely enough to cover rent, but he didn't complain. He thanked the guild master and packed his gear. Outside, the twilight glowed purple across the skyline. He stood by the river for a while, watching lights ripple. His body hurt, knees sore, arms trembling, but peace touched him briefly. He imagined his mother, healthy again, sitting on their balcony drinking tea. Jinna laughing, sunlight in her hair. A simple life, that was his dream, not riches. Not titles. When his phone buzzed, it was Jinna messaging him. "Oppa, I got 92% on my mock exam," laughing face. Jinwoo smiled, thumbs hovering over the screen. "That's amazing, Jinna. I'll bring home something tasty tonight." It didn't matter how tired he was. Moments like that made it worth it. Underneath Seoul's neon glow, Sung Jinwoo walked home, an ordinary man in a world of extraordinary hunters, unaware that the next raid would forever change his destiny. He didn't know the shadows were waiting. Before there was a Shadow Monarch, there was a trap, the dungeon that refused to open. This is the day Sung Jinwoo stepped beyond fear, and fate demanded everything. Night still hung over Seoul when Jinwoo stepped off the bus, his breath turning white in the cold. The message had come unexpectedly at dawn, an emergency group raid requiring available E&D rank hunters. The pay wasn't much, but it was enough for a week's hospital electricity. That was reason enough. At the gate site, a quiet, abandoned complex surrounded by police lines, a faint blue portal shimmered like liquid glass, its swirl dense and unusually calm. Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. Something about it felt wrong. He heard someone shout, "Gather up. Briefing in 2 minutes." Jinwoo recognized the man leading, Song Kai-Yul, a senior B-rank hunter with white streaks in his hair and calm authority in his gaze. This wasn't a high-rank operation, just a routine subjugation. But if Song was there, it meant the dungeon's classification might be misjudged. Hunters assembled, 17 in total. Some joked, others bragged, laughter filled the frosty morning air. Jinwoo, quiet as usual, stood near the back adjusting his worn dagger. Beside him, a familiar voice chimed, "Hey, Jinwoo. You got dragged into this one too." He turned to see Li Jui, a C-rank healing mage with kind eyes and calm presence. Her soft smile momentarily warmed the cold air. "Morning, Jui. Didn't expect to see you this early," Jinwoo said. She laughed lightly. "I could say the same. You've hit your monthly injury quota yet?" "Not yet," he smiled faintly. "But the day's still young." Their easy banter offered brief comfort amid the tension. Soon, Song Kai-Yul raised his voice. "All right, check your mana devices. Stay sharp. It's a dual-layered gate. We clear the first section, confirm safety, and exit." Simple. The blue vortex crackled. Hunters readied weapons. Song nodded once, and they stepped through. The world twisted, swallowed in cold light. Then, stone. The transition left a chill across Jinwoo's skin. Torches flickered to life along massive black walls. The air was heavy, not like normal dungeons, where monsters made noise, but thick, suffocating silence. The floor beneath them was a mosaic of strange runes, swirling in patterns unseen in standard gates. "This is strange," murmured AD rank. "Too quiet," added another. Jinwoo gazed around. The scale was wrong. The ceiling soared like a cathedral, endless pillars stretching to darkness. Statues lined the walls, towering gods carved of black stone, each holding a distinct weapon, spears, blades, chalices. But their faces were alive with something malevolent. Stone eyes seemed to follow their every move. Jinwoo's pulse quickened. Something ancient and wrong pulsed in the air. Jui whispered, "It doesn't feel like AC rank, does it?" He shook his head. "Not at all." They advanced cautiously, torches casting trembling light. The massive door at the far end loomed shut, enormous and engraved with intricate sigils. The rest of the dungeon appeared empty. One of the younger hunters laughed nervously. "Guess it's just a bust. Easy money, huh?" Song didn't laugh. "Stay in formation. Let's check that door." When they reached the giant doors, the air seemed colder, almost electric. Song raised a hand, muttering, "Mana density's high. Keep distance." But the curious ones stepped closer anyway, fingers tracing the ancient carvings. A rumbling shook the walls. Every hunter froze. "Back. Everyone back," Song commanded. The sigils flared, one by one, igniting an eerie blue flame. Jinwoo staggered backward as the ground beneath them cracked like thunder. The twin doors began to groan open, not away from them, but inward, toward a void swallowing the torchlight whole. Jinwoo's instincts screamed. Every fiber of his being told him to run. The floor collapsed partially as the doors settled wide. The inner chamber revealed itself, vast, temple-like, with a blood-red altar at its center. Dozens of stone statues filled the space, more menacing than before, warriors, kings, angels with blades of judgment. Then came the whisper. It wasn't sound, it was pressure. A weight pressing against their skulls, twisting their mana. The hunters gasped, clutching their temples. What was that? Mana surge, watch the statues. Song managed a strained voice. Everyone, inside. Stay alert. As soon as the last hunter crossed the threshold, the massive door slammed shut behind them. A woman screamed. It closed. The door closed. Jinwoo turned, the portal was gone. The blue shimmer had vanished completely. His voice trembled. Gate. It disappeared. Impossible. Gates never closed until cleared or overflowed. Unless it's a double dungeon, Song muttered darkly, realization hardening his eyes. The torches along the walls ignited on their own. Blue flames climbed high, revealing the enormity of the temple. At the front, a colossal statue stood above all others, a being in armor, wings spread, head bowed, holding a stone tablet. Words appeared, glowing letters etched midair. The commandments of God. Gasps echoed. A low hum vibrated the air again, the walls themselves seemed alive. The tablet's symbols shifted. One by one, lines translated into human language. Worship the Lord. Praise the Lord. Prove your faith to the Lord. Hunters exchanged confused glances. What does that even mean? Is this some kind of riddle? Jinwoo's skin prickled. He noticed the nearest statue's head turn, subtly, its stone eyes glinting blue. His throat dried. Everyone, don't move. A clumsy hunter laughed nervously. What are you talk? The statue's blade came down in a blur. A wet crunch. Blood splattered. The man's head rolled across the stone floor. Screams erupted. Run. Dozens of feet pounded against stone. The statues moved like demons, each swing a storm of stone and death. Jinwoo grabbed Jui, pulling her toward a fallen pillar. Stay down. The air filled with screams and the echo of crushing bone. Song's voice fought through the chaos. Stop running. Don't disobey the commandment. Jinwoo froze, remembering the inscription. Worship the Lord. His eyes darted to the massive central statue, the one holding the tablet. Its gaze fell upon them, each movement grinding like stone on steel. On instinct, Jinwoo dropped to one knee. The blade that had swung toward him halted, inches from his neck. He gasped. It stopped. He looked around, others still running were cut down. But those kneeling, safe, trembling but alive. Everyone. He shouted hoarsely. Kneel. Bow. Do as the rules say. One by one, terrified hunters fell to their knees. The noise began to subside, replaced by horrified sobs. The central statue's glow dimmed. Silence returned. Jinwoo's breath came ragged. Each second stretched forever. That was the first commandment, he whispered. Just then, the tablet's text shifted again. The Lord's song of praise shall echo. They stared. Confused. What now? One hunter began humming, uncertainly. Another followed, then more, sheer desperation turning fear into a broken chorus. Jinwoo could barely bring himself to join, but he did, until the room once again fell quiet. Nothing happened. Is it done? Jui whispered. Then came another ripple of mana, like laughter from the walls themselves. The second commandment was complete, but the third began to write itself. Prove your faith to the Lord. The torches flared blood red. A massive gate behind the altar slowly lifted, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The temperature plummeted, breath turned to frost. Song gestured shakily. Everyone, form groups of two. We find a way out through there. The deeper they went, the worse the fear became. The path curved into a crimson-lit corridor lined with broken statues, cracked guardians, their faces twisted in pain. Some held human bones in their mouths. Jui clung to Jinwoo's sleeve. Her usually calm eyes burned with tears. Why us? Why is this happening? Jinwoo swallowed hard. Because we were desperate. And this dungeon knew. Half the group was already gone, crushed, burned, sliced apart by divine statues. Only a handful remained. Song, Jui, Jinwoo, and 3 others. At the end of the stairway awaited a sacrificial hall. A massive chalice sat upon a pedestal. Inside, blood. Fresh, warm blood, still rippling. The floating text appeared again. Offer the Lord proof of faith. No one spoke. Then one man broke, shouting, "It wants blood. We just have to give it some. That's all." He slashed his hand and let blood drip into the chalice. The symbols brightened, then exploded with mana, shattering his body to ash. Jui screamed. Jinwoo pulled her back. No, it doesn't want just blood, he realized, eyes widening. It wants a sacrifice. The statues began to move again. Dozens this time, their killing intent filling the hall. Song shouted orders, trying to hold them off, but the air erupted with crushing force. One blow sent him flying against the wall. Song sunsang them. Jinwoo yelled, running to him. The man coughed blood but forced a smile. Take them and run. There's nowhere to run. Jinwoo grabbed Jui and another wounded man. They sprinted, dodging between collapsing pillars, shards of light flashing across the floor. A statue intercepted them. Jinwoo swung his dagger, it shattered instantly. The creature's stone sword raised high. Jui screamed. Jinwoo pushed her aside. Steel met skin. Pain tore through his shoulder. Blood sprayed the ground. He fell, gasping, world spinning. His vision blurred red. Around him, others lay dying one after another. Still, he crawled. Toward the altar. Toward the chalice. His hand smeared red across the floor. If, proof of faith, he coughed, trembling. Then take mine. He reached the chalice, dragging his broken body up the steps. Behind him, Jui's cries echoed, distant, fading. He looked up one last time at the statue. If I die here, let them live. He shoved his right arm into the chalice. Light erupted, blinding, furious, divine. The statues froze mid-swing. The entire temple shook as if screaming. Then, silence. When Jinwoo's eyes opened, he was alone. Blood soaked the altar steps. The statues stood still again, frozen like puppets at rest. But in the air above him, words. Glowing, scrolling across his vision. You have met the requirements. Would you like to become a player? Y.N. His breath caught. What is this? He stared, trembling. You have been chosen. Welcome, player Sung Jinwoo. The temple's flames flared black, swallowing everything. Some awakened from dreams, others awakened from death. After surviving the dungeon that shouldn't have existed, Sung Jinwoo opens his eyes to a world forever changed. Welcome to Chapter 3, The Birth of the Player. If you're enjoying the solo leveling cinematic saga, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. A fragile beep echoed in rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2. Jinwoo's eyes fluttered open to the dim glow of hospital lights. His throat burned with dryness. For a long moment, he couldn't move. The ceiling above him was white, the smell of antiseptic heavy in the air. He blinked slowly. Alive. The word drifted through his mind like a miracle he didn't dare trust. The last thing he remembered was blood, marble, and light swallowing everything. Now, bright daylight pressed through blinds. Machines murmured softly beside his bed. His arms were bandaged from wrist to elbow. IV tubes descended like gentle vines into his skin. Footsteps approached. The door opened. A nurse stepped in, clipboard in hand, then froze. Her eyes widened in disbelief. You're awake. Jinwoo opened his mouth, but only a rasp came out. How long? She swallowed. Almost a week. You were unconscious when the rescue team found you. They said everyone else was. She hesitated, lowering her voice. Gone. The words hit like a hammer, echoing in the hollow of his chest. Everyone. Jui. Song. The others. Guilt surged so deep it throbbed behind his ribs. He closed his eyes, tears threatening. I see, he whispered. By noon, doctors came, checking vitals, performing tests. His body, while weak, healed far quicker than predicted. Bruises that should have taken weeks faded overnight. One doctor murmured to another, unbelievable cellular regeneration. They glanced at him like he was something other than human. Jinwoo barely listened. His mind kept replaying the temple, the screams, the blood, those statues. And that voice. Would you like to become a player? He thought it had been a hallucination. Yet, when the room fell silent that night and the lights dimmed, a familiar chime cut through the air. Ding. Jinwoo froze. The sound didn't come from any machine in the room. It came from nowhere, and everywhere. Welcome back, player Sung Jinwoo. He sat bolt upright, eyes scanning wildly. What? Words materialized before his eyes, luminous blue text floating in the air. Daily quest. The path of training. 100 push-ups. 100 sit-ups. 100 squats. 10 kilometers run. Reward. +10 stat points. Penalty for incompletion. Random. He stared, stunned. Quote. Is this a joke? He rubbed his eyes. The text remained. Not a dream. Not a delusion. Another message flashed. Quest must be completed before sunrise. Then vanished. He exhaled sharply, shaking his head. I really did lose it. The next morning came quietly. Jinwoo sat at the edge of his bed in silence, rereading the message that returned at dawn. Daily quest. The path of training begins now. Out of sheer curiosity, or perhaps resignation, he decided to test it. He managed 5 push-ups before pain gripped his ribs. 10 sit-ups left his breath ragged. 20 squats made patches of sweat cling to his skin. He laughed bitterly. 100 each. You're kidding. But the memory of the temple still haunted him. Those who ignored the rules died instantly. If this was the same voice, failure might not just mean scolding. So he pushed harder. Hours later, he collapsed against the bed frame, body trembling, every muscle screaming in protest. He couldn't run 10 kilometers, not yet, but exhaustion dragged him into unconsciousness. Then a different sound echoed. Ding. Penalty zone activated for quest failure. What? The air shimmered. The walls dissolved into shadow. He was suddenly standing on endless wasteland beneath a crimson sky. The ground cracked open, monstrous hands crawling from the soil, black beasts with eyes like burning coal. Jinwoo stumbled back, heart pounding. What is this place? A message appeared midair. Survive for 4 hours. He turned and ran. The creatures roared, tearing through the sand after him. Each step shook the ground. One claw slashed his shoulder. He screamed, falling to the dirt. Not again, not again. Pain, hunger, terror, all too real. No dream could cut this deep. He crawled behind jagged rocks, gasping, forcing his battered limbs to move. For 4 hours, he muttered. I just need 4 hours. Time blurred. He fought, hid, bled, until the final bell of the quest rang. Ding. The creatures turned to dust. The world faded. Jinwoo opened his eyes again in his hospital bed, drenched in sweat. Breathing fast. Still bleeding from fresh wounds that hadn't been there before. Penalty cleared. Quest complete. Rewards granted. The messages confirmed what his senses already screamed. It was all real. His hands trembled as he whispered, I can get stronger through this, can't I? Over the next 2 weeks, his days changed completely. He trained not because he wanted to, but because he had to. The system's daily quests appeared at dawn without fail. Completing them became survival. He learned fast that reward points increased not just his stamina, but his strength, agility, and perception. By the 10th day, he felt different. Food tasted sharper. Colors brighter. His reflection, leaner, eyes harder. Scars faded faster than they formed. His once shabby hands carried faint traces of power. He recalled the doctors inspecting him again. Mr. Sung, one said, astonished, you've transformed. Your organ volume, muscle density, it's beyond average human tolerance. Jinwoo just smiled faintly. Maybe it's the hospital food. But inside, he knew the truth. The system wasn't just restoring him, it was rebuilding him. The day he was discharged, Seoul was bathed in spring sunlight. Jinwoo carried a small envelope, bills for his recovery and a warning notice from the association. Because of the dungeon deaths, he'd need to participate in re-evaluation before taking more raids. On the way home, he passed a shop window and caught his reflection again. For the first time, he didn't look away. There was still fear behind those eyes, but also something steadier. Determination, cold and alive. He paused beside a vending machine, inserting a few coins for coffee. As he waited, another faint chime echoed faintly in his ears. Level up available. The words pulsed in blue light. Jinwoo's lips tightened into a slow, quiet smile. For once, he said softly, I'm not the weakest anymore. The air around him shimmered like heat, faint traces of mana pulsing beneath his skin. The player had been born. Power was once something Sung Jinwoo only watched from the shadows. But now, for the first time, strength answers his call. This is Chapter 4, The Power to Level Up. If you're enjoying this solo leveling cinematic saga, hit like, share, and subscribe, and let's dive in. The late morning sun glazed the Seoul skyline, bouncing off towers and car roofs as Sung Jinwoo walked through the market road near his district. The world hadn't changed, but his eyes had. Every detail felt sharper. The air shimmered faintly with traces of mana, invisible currents he'd never noticed before, like threads weaving reality together. Each sound carried distance and clarity. Coins clinking, wind slicing down the alley. Even the pulse of his own heartbeat, steady, powerful, like a rhythm he could control now. At a fruit stall, shopkeepers who once snickered at his bruised, bandaged form now looked twice and hesitated. The frail, apologetic boy was gone, replaced by something quietly formidable. He bought apples. Jinna loved apples. As he neared home, the small apartment came into view, familiar laundry fluttering by the window, glimpses of their old lives preserved. He paused outside the door, uncertain. Would Jinna even believe what he'd become? He stepped in quietly. Oppa. Her voice hit him before he could speak. Jinna nearly dropped her textbook as she jumped up from the table. The joy and disbelief in her face stilled his breath. You're really okay. They told me you might never wake up. He smiled softly. Told you, your brother's too stubborn to die. She threw her arms around him, holding him tight. He winced slightly. She pulled back, eyes wide. You're different. You actually have muscle now. Jinwoo chuckled. Guess the hospital food wasn't that bad. She studied his face carefully, her expression softening into worry. Are you really okay? They said a monster. He glanced at the silent corner where their mother's bed stood, the fading light catching the gentle rise and fall of her chest. The hum of the medical monitor was still there, mercifully steady. I'm okay, he said after a pause. And I think, I'm finally going to be better than okay. She smiled faintly through tears. You better be, after scaring me like that. They spent that evening in warm silence, old habits restoring ease. Jinna cooked ramen, babbling about exams. Jinwoo listened, nodding, part of him grounded here, the other part, awake and waiting. When she went to sleep, he stood by the window, moonlight washing his hands in pale silver. Daily quest completed. Bonus reward. +3 strength, +2 stamina, +1 speed. The blue hologram flickered quietly. Time to see what this really means, he whispered. A week later, Jinwoo stood inside the association's evaluation wing, dressed in fresh hunter gear. It fit differently now, snug against muscle. The examiner blinked when she saw him. You're E-rank Sung Jinwoo. He nodded calmly. That's me. You look, healthier. Inside the testing room, sensors glowed around a sealed arena. We'll measure your mana density and strength. Standard reassessment. He nodded and placed his palms on the detection pads. The screen pulsed, then glitched, blurring for seconds before stabilizing. Mana levels. Unquantifiable. The staff exchanged glances. Unquantifiable. Must be a sensor bug. It happens sometimes, one murmured nervously. Jinwoo stepped back with a knowing smirk. He didn't need a label to tell him what he felt inside. Power vibrated beneath his veins like a storm waiting for air. Can I do a field test? He asked. Minutes later, he joined a mixed rank team at a nearby E-rank gate, one no other hunter considered dangerous. But for Jinwoo, this was the first real test of the system's blessing. Inside, the dungeon smelled of damp moss and iron. Olive green goblins scurried between boulders, their crimson eyes reflecting torchlight. The team leader, a loud D-rank named Wang, barked orders. You, the newbie. Stick to the rear. Don't mess this up. Jinwoo nodded, suppressing a grin. Got it. The others charged in first, blades flashing. Jinwoo followed slowly, observing movement, patterns, weaknesses, timing. Every swing looked slow, predictable. When a goblin lunged at him, he sidestepped fluidly, dagger slicing its throat in one clean motion. The creature dropped, blue light dissolving around it. The others froze. Wait, did you just one-shot that thing? Jinwoo didn't answer. His pulse quickened as the familiar sound echoed. Ding. Quest objective complete. Defeat a monster. +1 level up. The glow coursed through him, warm, electric. Cutting-edge clarity flooded his senses. Every nerve alive. Every heartbeat louder. Another goblin appeared. This time, Jinwoo dashed forward, faster than before. The blade traced an arc of silver through the air. The monster didn't even scream before falling apart. By the time the team leader looked over, 4 more bodies lay sprawled. Wang's jaw dropped. How the hell? But Jinwoo wasn't listening. Stat growth unlocked. Free stat points available, 18. He opened the menu mentally. Strength, agility, stamina, sense, intelligence. He focused on strength. Just like that, he felt the system surge, muscles tightening, air compressing around his fists. Hours passed. The dungeon's steady hum grew quiet, all monsters cleared. The team leader staggered behind, panting. You're not human, are you? Jinwoo wiped his blade clean, eyes glowing faintly from mana exhaustion, or exhilaration. Just leveling up. Outside, the evening light washed the portal site gold. Jinwoo closed his eyes, letting the system's hum fade beneath the city noise. Then came another ding. Hidden quest activated. The Path of the Hunter. Objective. Surpass human limits, 0/1 completed. He smiled slowly. The city glimmered below, unaware of the storm inside him. I will. That night, Jinwoo sat quietly beside his mother's bedside. The room was still, the beeping rhythmic. He whispered, almost to himself, soon. Mom. Soon I'll be able to fix this. I'll make enough money to wake you up. I promise. His reflection in the dark window stared back, sharper eyes, stronger frame, shadows threading underneath the glow of the monitor lights. For the first time since his father disappeared, there was no fear in his voice, only quiet certainty. Quest log updated. Major goal, awaken mother of player Sung Jinwoo. He blinked. Even this, you're listening. The system pulsed once in acknowledgement, a faint blue heartbeat across the room. Jinwoo smiled. Then let's see how far we can go. Outside, the moon reflected off Seoul's skyline like silver glass. And deep beneath the city, unseen gates trembled, whispering, as if the shadows themselves sensed their future king. They called him weak once, a burden on every raid. But today, even the shadows whisper differently. Enter the chapter where power meets fear. Chapter 5, The Dungeon of Wolves. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more cinematic solo leveling storytelling only on Anime What If Saga. Only a month had passed since Sung Jinwoo's reawakening, but already his name echoed quietly through the association halls. Rumors spread fast. An E rank who cleared small gates solo, moving with speed that even D ranks couldn't track. Some called him a fluke. Others called him crazy. But one early morning, when he arrived for another raid sign-up, the clerk at the counter smiled cautiously. Mr. Sung, you've been requested. Requested. Jinwoo tilted his head. She handed him a sleek envelope with the Hunters Association crest. Inside, an invitation from the Ajin Guild, one of Seoul's young but ambitious mid-tier groups. We're recruiting for a high-pay emergency raid. You've been recommended by several D-rank survivors. Jinwoo smiled faintly. I see. Did they know I'm still E-rank? The clerk sighed. They don't care. They said what matters is how you fight. That was new. At the Ajin Guild's downtown office, modern light panels illuminated the briefing room. Screens displayed footage of a dungeon gate pulsing with deep crimson mist. This gate's unstable, said the raid leader, Cha Hae-in, short gold hair catching the light, her presence sharp, her aura focused like a drawn blade. Jinwoo watched quietly. He recognized her instantly, one of the rising stars of Korean hunters, famous for precision and calm under pressure. Our scouts confirm C rank classification, she continued, voice level but uneasy. But the readings fluctuate. It might evolve mid-operation. One burly D rank laughed nervously. You mean a red gate? Those things are death traps. Cha's clear eyes met his. We'll handle it if that happens. Jinwoo felt it immediately. Her mana was immense, carefully restrained yet undeniable. A contrast to his quiet energy, the kind that didn't roar but sank deep like shadow. After the meeting, she approached him. Sung Jinwoo, right. You're the one who cleared 5 dungeons solo. I just got lucky, he said simply. She studied his face a little longer, as if sensing the lie. Luck doesn't make monsters flinch before dying. He smiled slightly. Maybe they were just smart monsters. Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile. We leave at dawn. Don't be late. The gate appeared in an old industrial district, abandoned warehouses swallowed by overgrown vines. The portal shimmered in stormy crimson, waves of mana distorting the air with violent pulse. Jinwoo's senses prickled. The air felt heavier than it should, charged, hungry. Something's off, he murmured. Cha Hae-in noticed his tone but said nothing, checking her sword straps. One by one, the hunters stepped through the gate. For a moment, Jinwoo hesitated. His system interface flickered faintly. Warning. Dimensional stability, error. He gritted his teeth. So this is how it starts. He stepped through. Cold. He landed in snow waist deep, the air biting with frost so sharp it cut skin. The terrain stretched like an Arctic wasteland, cliffs rising into violet skies. No dungeon should look this vast. Behind him, someone cursed. Where the hell are we? Cha scanned the area. Check your coordinates. The return gate. Her voice trailed off as they turned. The portal was gone. Only swirling snow remained. A chill knot from the air sank into every heart. One of the veterans gasped, "It's a red gate. We're trapped inside." Panic erupted instantly. But Jinwoo remained silent, watching the horizon. Notice. Emergency quest activated. Survive inside the red gate until boss is defeated. His eyes narrowed. Thought so. He spoke calmly to the team. Panicking won't help. Find shelter before we freeze. The temperature's dropping by the minute. For reasons even she didn't understand, Cha nodded and followed his tone. He's right. Move. They trekked through endless snow until discovering a narrow cave, wind-shielded, barely big enough for a dozen of them. Inside, breath came out white and heavy. Ice slicked the walls like glass. They set up torches and tried to think. Jinwoo glanced at his system window. His HP ticked down in small red lines. Cold damage. Hunger and fear gnawed at hours that felt like days. A growl echoed outside, low, drawn out, ancient. Everyone froze instantly. Cha stood, blade unsheathed, senses sharp as lightning. Stay ready. The growling deepened. Then, shapes appeared through the snow fog, tall, sleek, and utterly silent. Wolves the size of bears, fur white as ice crust, eyes burning blue. Their breath steamed. D-ranks tightened grip on weapons. One panicked swing whiffed uselessly as a wolf lunged, jaws breaking bone in a single snap. Blood sprayed against snow. Back. Fall back, shouted Cha. Jinwoo stepped forward instead. Get behind me. The nearest wolf growled, frost dripping from its fangs. Let's see, he whispered, opening his system. Skill. Sprint LV.2, active. Dagger Mastery LV.3, active. The world slowed as he moved. Snow burst beneath his boots, dagger glinting like midnight lightning. One slash, clean. A wolf's throat opened, blue blood staining the snow. Another lunged. Jinwoo dodged, pivoted, drove his blade under its jaw. Enemy defeated. +4 level up. Stat points acquired. 12. The messages flickered in rhythm with his pulse. When the last wolf fell, steam rose from his body, his breath calm. Around him, the others stared like witnessing the impossible. Cha stepped forward, expression unreadable. E-rank. You're not E-rank anymore, are you? Jinwoo sheathed his dagger. Does it matter? She hesitated, then shook her head slowly. Not right now. You just saved everyone. But deep down, even fear looked at him differently. They built camp deeper in the cave, using wolf pelts as insulation. Jinwoo instructed 2 members to craft makeshift torches, another to carve icy spears. Command came effortlessly now, his voice steady, not loud, but precise. He felt it in his blood, a natural instinct he didn't remember learning. The system didn't just give him strength, it shaped awareness. Efficiency. Command. When night fell, he sat at the entrance, watching snow drift like drifting souls. Cha joined him quietly. You've changed more than any hunter I've ever seen. He didn't deny it. The dungeon changes everyone. She looked at him, eyes soft but curious. You're not afraid anymore. Fear's still there, he said, smiling faintly. But now, it listens to me. The faint howl of another pack echoed in distant stormlight. Cha's grip tightened on her sword. Jinwoo rose slowly, the glow of the system faint in his reflection. Then let's make it through till dawn. Cold breath meets steel resolve. In the frozen abyss, the weakest hunter stands before a monster that could erase armies. Welcome to Chapter 6, The Ice Bear and the Fire Within. If you enjoy cinematic solo leveling storytelling, hit like, share, and subscribe to Anime What If Saga. Morning inside the red gate carried no warmth, only a pale sky heavy with falling frost. Breath turned to shards in the air. The snow beneath Jinwoo's boots crunched with every careful step outside the cave. He and Cha Hae-in led small scouting groups to locate the dungeon's core, the source of the red gate's mana. Without destroying it, none of them could ever leave. Jinwoo watched the horizon, a bleak sea of white. He could feel vibrations underfoot, slow and rhythmic, like distant thunder. Something massive stirred beneath the ice plains. Quest update. Identify dungeon boss. Reward TBD. He exhaled, his breath ghosting upward. Guess that's our next step. An hour later, wind roared across the tundra as shadows streaked beneath the snow's surface. The ice cracked suddenly, an explosion of frost and power. Through the blinding flurry rose an abomination of muscle and frost. A giant bear, 2 stories tall, fur sculpted like frozen armor, eyes glowing crystalline blue. Every breath it exhaled created swirling storms around its body. The hunters froze in horror. The sheer pressure crushed their lungs before the beast even moved. Cha whispered, Ice Bear type variant, C rank can't spawn this is A rank. Jinwoo's expression hardened. It's beyond A. The monster bellowed, the sound shaking ice cliffs into collapse. Boss monster identified. Frost Monarch Beast, Kasaka of Winter. Kasaka. Jinwoo murmured. The name itself emanated dread. The alpha of this dungeon had awakened. The first wave hit them like a storm. Hail the size of fists rained from nothing, conjured by the monster's breath. Hunters screamed, their armor shattering like glass. Scatter. Cha commanded, darting left with impossible speed. Mana flared golden around her blade, slicing through shards midair. Jinwoo dove ahead, rolling through debris, eyes glowing faintly as his system interface burst into life. Combat mode initiated. Skill. LV.3, active. Skill. Dagger Mastery LV.4, active. The world slowed. Steam rose from his mouth as he charged directly at the creature's leg. His dagger gleamed black-blue, slicing a glowing wound across its ankle. Kasaka roared, sweeping one massive paw, the impact splitting the ice. Jinwoo flipped backward, narrowly avoiding the strike but landing hard on his side. HP, 68%. He hissed. That's the difference between A rank and me, huh? But then, another chime. Passive skill activated. Will of the player, reduces incoming HP loss by 30%. His eyes widened. That wasn't a skill he remembered unlocking. You're full of surprises, huh, system. Far behind, the remaining hunters huddled together, Jui and two mages forming barriers of flame to thin the storm's intensity. Cha Hae-in leapt through the chaos, slicing against Kasaka's flank with golden arcs that shattered ice armor but barely pierced flesh. Jinwoo joined her side mid-swing, blades flashing. You can cut higher, he shouted. Aim where the frost doesn't reform. She glanced, briefly surprised he could read the creature that precisely, then nodded. Together they struck, her radiant mana meeting his condensed shadow energy. The collision rocked the air, the beast roared again, bleeding frost like shattered glass. But it adapted. Its next roar carried freezing waves that liquefied oxygen midair. Cha dropped, coughing blood, frost climbing up her arm. Cha! Jinwoo's shout tore through the wind. He slammed both hands into the ground, activating every strength point he'd saved. Stat allocation, strength plus 10, agility plus 8, vitality plus 6. Skill unlocked, rage boost LV.1. He felt his heart explode with heat. Every muscle ignited, frost turned to steam where he stood. Get back, he told her quietly. But, now. His tone carried something primal. Even she couldn't argue. Kasaka reared, its shadow covering the sky. Jinwoo's blade caught fire, not real fire, but the manifestation of mana so dense it bent light around it. Steam hissed off his clothes as he clenched his jaw. He dashed, faster than the eye could trace. Each footstep cracked the ground like thunder. The dagger carved through the air, slicing veins of frost blood from Kasaka's limb. The monster retaliated, jaws smashing down. Jinwoo rolled under the descending head, stabbing upward through its neck membrane. Blue ichor spilled hot and steaming against the ice. Critical hit. Level up x3. The sound filled his skull, intoxicating as adrenaline pumped through his veins. He slashed again and again, movement seamless, instinct sharpened beyond conscious thought. But even as strength surged, pain grew. His stamina plummeted, frostbite clawing at his arms. Kasaka roared one final time, lifting both paws for a killing strike. There was nowhere left to run. The mountain of ice and bone came crashing down. Move, damn it, Jinwoo hissed, willing his frozen legs to obey. Move. Then, darkness shifted around him. Warning. Death imminent. Emergency activation condition met. A black pulse erupted from the ground. Boom. It wasn't air that moved, it was darkness. Smoke-like tendrils erupted beneath Jinwoo's feet, encircling him in flowing shapes like wings. They reached up, forming ethereal claws that caught Kasaka's descending arm mid-swing. The mountain of a beast froze mid-motion. Cha Hae-in looked up through the storm, eyes wide. What is that? Behind Jinwoo, shapes wavered, silhouettes of something impossible. Figures. Soldiers made of shadow, eyes glowing violet. The ice shuddered beneath him. Jinwoo's own pupils flared the same hue. He had no idea what he was doing, only that it answered him. Hold it. The shadows obeyed. Kasaka struggled, roaring, freezing air, snapping trees, but the spectral arms pressed harder until its bones began to creak. Jinwoo drew in one deep breath, counting his own pulse. Let's end this. He leapt. One final dash, dagger glowing almost white. Piercing through the monster's heart, he buried the blade deep until the light tore through from within. The world flashed blue-white. The beast's roar echoed into silence. Then, it fell. Boss monster defeated. Level up x10. Hidden skill unlocked. Shadow energy dormant. Jinwoo collapsed to one knee, breathing hard, frost and steam rising from his shoulders. The glowing figures behind him dissolved back into nothing, leaving only faint embers of black aura. He looked down at his trembling hands. For the first time, he felt something ancient echoing beneath his heartbeat. When he returned to camp, every hunter stared. Cha approached slowly, her voice soft but unsteady. That thing obeyed you. He looked at her, expression distant, tired, and simply said, I don't think it obeyed me. It's just part of me now. She inhaled sharply but stayed silent, her gaze lingering on the faint trace of darkness around his fingers before it vanished completely. Beyond the frozen ridges, the sky cracked open with the shimmer of a collapsing gate. The barrier that had sealed them was breaking down. As blue light cascaded over the snow, Jinwoo closed his eyes. The monsters, the cold, the pain, all gone. But within the silence, one truth remained. He had crossed a line no human should. And the shadows had noticed. A dungeon swallowed him whole. Now, he returns, stronger, darker, and forever changed. This is Chapter 7, The Return and the Offer. If you're enjoying this cinematic solo leveling saga, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Anime What If Saga. When the red gate dissolved, the world on the outside erupted in chaos. Reporters, guild representatives, and association staff filled the snowy clearing, expecting corpses. Instead, 5 hunters stepped out, blinking beneath the harsh morning light. And leading them, Sung Jinwoo. His clothes were torn, coated in frost and blood, but his expression was steady. The cold air that choked everyone else rolled off him like it obeyed. Behind him, Cha Hae-in limped, leaning slightly on Jinwoo's shoulder. Her eyes lingered on him with silent awe. Association rescue teams froze mid-action when they recognized the faces. Impossible, they survived a red gate. One officer whispered, trembling. Wasn't the weakest E rank in that team. He was. But the man before them looked like something else entirely. The medical tents buzzed with news. Cameras flashed through the canvas walls. Guild agents whispered names, bounties, contracts. Jinwoo sat quietly on a cot while his injuries were checked. The doctor looked uneasy. You're healing faster than expected. Your tissue regeneration, this isn't normal. Jinwoo sighed lightly. Guess I'm just a fast healer. Outside the tent, Cha Hae-in confronted the association's senior examiner, Woo Jin-chul. His sharp features softened in disbelief. He took down the boss alone. Wu asked quietly. She nodded. It wasn't normal mana. It was something else. Dark, but alive. I don't think even he understands it yet. Wu placed a hand on his chin, the gears turning. Then this might be bigger than we can handle. From the corner of the tent flap, Jinwoo's voice cut through mildly. If you're going to talk about me, at least let me stay awake for it. They both turned. Jinwoo stood there, draped in a borrowed jacket, faint steam curling off his body where residual mana clung to him like shadow. He offered them a faint, wry smile. I didn't die, if that's what you were wondering. Woo Jin-chul chuckled awkwardly. We were wondering how you didn't. Within 2 days, the entire association knew his name. Hunter forums exploded with speculation and shaky photos. Weakest hunter defeats A rank boss solo. E rank. My foot. Look at those eyes. Rumor is he burned an entire ice plane fighting it. He ignored the noise. Fame never warmed his heart. It only drew attention he didn't need. But power had a cost. He could feel the eyes following him, even in silence. At home, he resumed training quietly, the system's interface glowing brighter than ever before. He now had access to new functions. Skill tree expansion available. New category unlocked. Shadow extraction, locked. The words pulsed faintly as he knelt beside his mother's bedside, her calm face serene beneath warm morning light. He whispered, "Every time I survive, I'm one step closer. So just keep waiting a bit longer, Mom." The system chimed softly, almost approvingly. That evening, he received a visitor. 2 black cars parked quietly outside the apartment complex. A man in a neat gray suit stepped out, his mana pressure enough to silence curious onlookers. "Hunter Sung Jinwoo," the man said as he approached. "I represent White Tiger Guild. We'd like to talk." Jinwoo closed his door halfway. "I'm sure you would. After the Red Gate, we're certain you've undergone a reawakening. We can have you retested, provide equipment, funding, team placement." "Not interested," Jinwoo interrupted. The man blinked, momentarily thrown off. "You'd refuse a high-rank guild invitation." Jinwoo's gaze sharpened. "There's still a lot about me I don't understand. I won't drag anyone else into that." When the man persisted, Jinwoo simply closed the door. "Tell your guild master to find someone who still needs proving. I already know what I am." Behind the closed door, the representative sighed. "That man's either insane, or about to be the most powerful hunter this country's seen." Later that night, Jinwoo returned to an empty test site, an old, deserted factory on Seoul's outskirts. The system window hovered faintly before him. Skill activation. Shadow extraction, rank. Conditions unmet. He stared at it. Extraction. In the shadows at his feet, faint motes pulsed like living ink. He thought of Kasaka, the fallen frost beast, its massive form disintegrating into particles of mana. "What if," he murmured. He focused, reaching not with his hands, but with the pressure of will itself. The ambient darkness stirred. Cold air thickened, the smell of iron filled the room. Then, a faint echo. A clawed hand rose from his shadow, only for the image to distort and vanish. Skill failure. Target power exceeds user's control limit. He exhaled, shaking his head. So not yet. But close. Every failure deepened his control. Each attempt, the darkness lingered longer, forming shapes, almost sentient, almost following command. It thrilled him, even as it terrified him. Because deep inside that shadow's pull, something else breathed, ancient, waiting. Days later, while meditating during one of his system quests, a sound cut through the cold silence of his mind. A whisper. Too distant to understand, but familiar, that same presence from the Red Gate. It wasn't calling his name. It was acknowledging him. Synchronization in progress. 3%. Jinwoo's eyes flashed open. His pulse quickened. Synchronization. The faint blue hue in his irises deepened a shade darker, violet for a moment, before fading. He stood slowly, flexing his fingers as black sparks dissolved against his skin. "Whatever you are," he whispered to the air, "I'll find out soon." Outside, the city hummed unaware, while in the unseen layers between worlds, something vast stirred behind the cracks of the dimensional gates. The Shadow Monarch's heartbeat was faint, but now, alive again. If you enjoyed this deep exploration of Solo Leveling's greatest hero, tap that like button, share the adventure with your fellow fans, and subscribe for more anime storytelling at its finest. Your support brings these epic tales to life. Thank you for standing with us in the shadows of Anime What If Saga. Stay tuned for more stories that stretch the limits of imagination, where every shadow whispers a legend waiting to rise. Until next time, may your path be forged with courage, strength, and unbreakable will. Stay tuned for part 2. The hunt has only just begun.